All right, it's official. Elon buying Twitter. Leftists are flipping out. Most people don't know what's happening, but if you're on Twitter, if you pay attention to nerd stuff, you probably heard some about it. And to catch you up, a few months ago, he decided to buy Twitter. Everybody freaked out. They had cry sessions, struggle sessions at Twitter. They had to have conference calls. And then things got messed up. He decided there was too many bots, yada yada. They ended up in court. Court has not gone well for Elon, it sounds like. Now, if you don't know about a lot of corporate structure, a lot of corporations are incorporated in Delaware, low taxes, good structure, and the judges there are very sympathetic to corporations. That's why they do it. So anyway, he's lost a number of rulings. I've heard he has to pay $1 billion if this deal doesn't go through. So he's probably just cutting his losses and saying, F it, I'll just buy Twitter. So his offer's back on the table, according to everything we're hearing. Everybody's flipping out again. I'm going to show you why. Because if you're paying attention to anything going on in the world, this matters, right? It really does. So, and I'll break it down for you. So, this is TechCrunch, and it's all over the news. I think this is The Verge breaking it down, everything you need to know. But really, a few telling things. And Ben Collins, and I brought him up here on Twitter. Ben works for NBC News, senior reporter. He's a tool, is what he is. Read this thread here. He says, for those of you asking, yes, I do think the site can and will change pretty dramatically if Musk gets full control over it. No, there is no immediate replacement. If it gets done early enough based on people he's aligned with, yes, it could actually affect the midterms. Now, he's talking about the midterm elections coming up. Because of course it will. Because we all know Twitter, Facebook, all social media sites, they have been engaging in censorship with the government, of all people, against people on the right, people they don't like. And I'm going to show you examples and proof. Not just theory, not just conspiracies. But let's finish reading what Ben has to say here, Mr. Reporter, the journalist. If Musk is really taking the site private, there are no real guardrails anymore. Rulemaking can be capricious. He can elevate any idea or person he wants through recommendations and user interface choices, and there will be no oversight on this private company. Now keep in mind, Twitter is already private. It's privately owned. Yeah, it's publicly traded on the stock market, but it's still a private company. It's not a public company. It's not owned by the government. That's why they can ban and censor whoever the hell they want. They have Section 230 protection, which means they're technically a publisher. They just allow people to publish stuff on their site. They can, so all the stuff he's talking about is already a thing. It's just a thing he agrees with. And he goes on, we know from Musk's private texts he talks with people who want to let Trump back on and make Blake Masters type of VP of enforcement. Now, one of the things that's happened during this court case in Delaware that Musk is going through with Twitter is some of his private texts are open for discovery, meaning they're public. And this is some of the things he said is, hey, we need to get some enforcement people on there. And so anyway, that's what he's referencing. Masters is a far-right Senate candidate backed by Facebook founder and Trump donor Peter Thiel. Just amazing. And he subtweeted himself here. Wow, as a part of this Twitter suit, here are some texts from Elon from a redacted receipt and sender. One talks about letting back on the boss himself, likely Trump, and creates a strategy for making a Blake Masters type VP of enforcement. And I mean, just think of the whole mindset here. Think about what he's saying up here and talking about the midterms. They know this is a political advantage for them to have control of social media, And we'll get into the Biden laptop thing here in a minute, because that's a direct issue. They know that they get to control the information. Left-wing candidates, Democratic candidates are verified on Twitter like this asshat. Right-wing candidates that are winning and popular are not verified. Then many times they get banned. They're literally banning political opponents. And a lot of times it's at the direction of people at the White House and people at the DOJ and at the FBI. And again, I'm going to show you direct proof, not just speculation. What does this look like in the short term? Abandonment of traditional moderation policies. Stuff like Pizzagate. If you don't remember, Pizzagate was a long time ago. There was conspiracy that there was a pizza restaurant in D.C. that had a basement, and they would kidnap kids, and some lunatic went in there and shot up the place one day. You know, it was a whole sad thing. And, you know, I don't support that. Nobody I know supports that, left or right. And you gotta be careful against straw man arguments like that. Just because there's a fucking nutcase doesn't mean everybody's nuts, right? Pushed by bots and liars. Well, Musk says one of his first things is he wants to get rid of the 20% plus bots on here. Disinfo campaigns will be top trending topics and drive news cycles. Dude, they already are. You know, they've already proved that something like 90-something% of accounts with multiple Ukraine flags or that jump in Ukraine-Russia arguments are bots. And there was a recent story, and I should have pulled it up, that the whole DOJ and CIA got in trouble with big tech and for running PSYOP campaigns on social media because they did it so sloppily. And they weren't getting in trouble for running those campaigns, mind you, and this was done by a Senate Oversight Committee. They got in trouble because it was so sloppy. So just chew on that. Authoritarian governments will have a field day. Okay. In the long term, Musk's plans for the website are a suicide bomb. Very few people want to use a moderation-free app saturated with lies by design. We know this from dozens of Twitter clones who have tried and failed, but he seems dead set on taking bad advice from bad people. And notice just the setup to the argument. One, that it'll be moderation-free, saturated with lies by design. I mean, really? That's what you really think? Maybe people just want a place where they can have an open discussion without being censored, without being, you know, immediately banned. It's just amazing. And this is a journalist, by the way, who should believe in free speech, you know, as long as it doesn't harm somebody. And I mean really harm, like literally, I'm, you know, threatening to kill people, you know, or telling others to kill people. That should be the line. Hurting somebody's feelings, that isn't, you know, that isn't harm. That isn't, you know, dangerous. That's just a disagreement, you know. In conclusion, Elon Musk's Twitter purchase will have to be heavily financed by somebody else in order for him to complete it. Really? Because he's the richest dude in the world. So, okay. In May, according to the SEC filing, Musk's Twitter buy was most heavily subsidized by Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal Al-Saud, however the hell that is. Ooh, so it's a... So are we Islamophobic now? Is that why we're throwing this guy's name out? I mean, what's the point in saying that? All Saudis are bad or what? Because imagine somebody on the right, imagine Trump Jr. or somebody posted that. They'd be, oh my God, Islamophobe. Remember how Trump did the whole travel ban? He's Islamophobe, Chinaphobe, you name it, all kinds of phobe. But when it suits him, you can be whatever phobic. It's just amazing. And this is a journalist, guys. That's what I wanted to point out. And keep all this in mind. He's worried it's going to affect the midterms because they're not going to be able to, number one, keep the candidates off they don't want. Number two, something like Hunter's laptop comes up with child porn and drugs and blatant corruption where there's emails from, you know, his son to the now president of the United States blatantly taking bribes from Ukraine. They're not going to be able to suppress that and call it Russian disinformation. And, oh, we better hide this until after the election. They know they're not going to be able to do that this time. On both sides, hopefully, and I'm not for that for either side. You know, you show me real evidence that Donald Trump or anybody is against America or blatantly corrupt, I want to see it on both sides. And I think most people feel that way. You may not believe that, but that's the way it is. And let me show you just another piece. You know, here's what you'll see. You know, Donald Trump suspended, right wing. Mike Lindell, right wing. Alex Jones, he was the first. Remember, he was the first. All of a sudden, every major social media platform in the world banned him within an hour of each other. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. Even Apple Podcasts, you name it. He was the first. Everybody kind of hesitated when they first did it. They said, "Oh, this could be bad," but he was so dangerous because he questioned a mass shooting. And I'm not defending what he did, not one bit. But everybody questioned, hey, maybe we shouldn't just unperson somebody without a trial or something, you know? And it was also weird because it was so coordinated, even though they swore it wasn't. But we know damn well it was. James O'Keefe, reporter, by the way. War Room Pandemic. I don't know what that was, but I'm Conceptual James, right wing. Carpe Donktum, right wing. right wing, right wing. You know, all these people were just banned. Many of them without any reason. If you know the Twitter account Libs of TikTok, all this lady does is she takes TikTok videos that left-wing liberals post, usually about indoctrinating kindergartners into trans or gay culture, and reposts them. She doesn't edit them. She doesn't put commentary on them. She literally just reposts their own videos, and they're constantly banning her for 7 days. They're in a court battle now, and that, it's always for hate speech. And now, if I'm reposting something you post without doing it, I'm just reposting something you put out there, how is that harassment or hate speech? What it really is they don't want their own ideology exposed. Can we agree on that? But they know if somebody sensible and fair is running Twitter, stuff like that's not going to happen, and it's going to be out there. It's not going to be banned, right? So the next thing. Twitter's justification for censorship. You can read this. It's kind of an interesting article. They basically, But the thing I really wanted to get to, I told you there's proof. Zuckerberg tells Rogan FBI warning prompted Biden laptop story censorship. And this is what happens. And there's two ways the government is basically pushing censorship via social media. And one of them is just like this. The FBI goes to Zuckerberg and they say, hey, we have it on good source that that laptop, it could be Russian disinfo leading up to an election, and we caution you against it. And what is Zuckerberg supposed to do? And I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I don't like the guy. I don't trust the guy. But I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, And he says, oh, shit, the FBI is saying this, I don't want to be a Russian troll, Russian stooge. I don't want to be used like this, especially after the 2016 debacle, even though that was totally debunked. And we know it was actually done by the FBI, the whole Russiagate thing. But, of course, he doesn't put it out there. And so they go to Twitter, and they say that. They go to Facebook. They go to everywhere. And so the media ghosted that story. And everybody damn well knew it was for real. They damn well knew it was for real. But, it is what it is. Now, that's one way they do it. They just whisper in their ear. The other way they've managed to censorship. Now, keep in mind, the First Amendment protects freedom of speech. So legally, the government is not allowed to go and say, hey, shut that person down. Shut that shit down. They're not legally allowed to do that. How they've gotten around that is they get, committees or funds or super PACs, what's the word? Like the ACLU, the Anti-Defamation League, groups like that form, those coalitions that come up with basic, your hate speech, groups, your hate speech list, your enemies list. And there's plenty of articles on this, and they'll say, oh, these people are right-wing extremists. And so the government will say, hey, we think this guy's a right-wing extremist. He's a insurrectionist. And so the government will push that information to these groups, and those groups will push it to the social media companies, and they'll say, oh, these are extremists. They're pushing out bad ideas. They're indoctrinating people. We think they could be working with the Russians. They could be working with aliens. They're communists. They're God knows what. They probably go to church. They probably believe in God. Who knows? They probably don't even have any trans kids or gay kids. They're horrible people. They're probably white. You got to get them out. Get them off there. And that's what they do. So while the government isn't directly censoring people, they're indirectly doing it. And Zuckerberg, he just said the quiet part out loud, and we know it's happening. We know it's been happening. So it's no real surprise there, right? So that's a couple of the ways they do it. And it's pretty clear cut. And I'll actually be surprised if there isn't more roadblocks thrown in the way of the whole Twitter deal, because I think that's a real threat to the FBI, the deep state, so to speak. And I'm not one of these guys that, oh my gosh, there's a deep state conspiracy behind everything. But I mean, we know there's groups within all those agencies that, regardless of the president that comes and goes, those bureaucrats are going to be there for decades. And they all want to have their way. They don't want a Donald Trump coming in there and screwing up the way things are, That's why I really think we need term limits, especially on Congress. Those people are there way too long. And, I think it's inevitable they become corrupt. And then the bureaucrats at these places, there needs to be, there is oversight committees on a lot of these agencies, but, it's a revolving door, it's really just a revolving door. The other day there was a finance committee hearing, an oversight committee on finance, and one of the people on the committee was talking about their staffers going to work at, I think it was Goldman Sachs or something, while they're basically interviewing somebody at Goldman Sachs and doing oversight on them. And it's like, Jesus Christ, guys, you've got the people that are supposed to be, policing those people, going to work for those people. What are we doing here? But it's, overall it's pretty common. And, I always throw out a shout out to my man, Jack Prosobic. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but he's always got fire stuff on Twitter. He's always telling the latest. Former, intel officer. He's always got the latest. And he's always dropping truth bombs. So I always give him a shout out. But I've had a lot of people ask me about Twitter and my thoughts. But that's why there's such a big pushback on the left. They're scared just because they know they'll lose control of the narrative. The most powerful thing in the world is freedom of speech, to use your voice. To get the truth out there. And that's why it's so important that they do control these things. And if they lose control of Twitter and Twitter becomes a free and open space where you and I can have an argument, tell each other to go fuck each other, go, fuck off and argue like normal adults can do and disagree, we don't have to agree on everything. We really don't. I can think Donald Trump is a good president and good for America, and I can think he's a shitty person. You can think Joe Biden is a good president and a shitty person. You can think he's a bad president and a good person. Either way. We can agree to disagree. That's okay. That doesn't make me an insurrectionist. It doesn't make you a moron. We can disagree on things. But we need to, what's happened, especially since COVID, is we've gotten to the point where we're not even allowed to ask questions about things. That's how they've conditioned us. You ask questions, you're a conspiracy theorist. You don't like sending $100 billion to Ukraine, you're a Russian puppet. You don't think COVID, came from a bat. You're not scared wearing a mask and taking these jabs. Well, you're just an anti-vaxxer. And, you're the reason grandma died. And if you don't get this booster right now, you're the reason kids are going to die. It's just a bunch of bullshit. It's how they control you. Go back and just look at final words of COVID patients or kind of final words of people that didn't get vaxxed on Google. You'll be amazed because I think you'll see it now where a lot of people initially didn't see it. But initially they put out a lot of nonsense. And I won't get into that. This video will probably get banned if I keep talking about it. I should probably edit the whole thing. But anyway, I think, bottom line, the world, especially the United States, will be better off if somebody that believes in free speech allows Twitter to be free again. Bottom line. Get the bots off there. Get rid of some of the nonsense. Right now, I'd say most of Twitter is blue checks, just talking back and forth at other blue checks. And Elon's got some great ideas on making Twitter decent again, everybody can, pay for verification. I think that's a good idea. Everybody can DM all their followers for a fee. And you overuse that, you lose followers, and you're paying for it. So I don't think people will overuse that. I think there's different things, he's talked about doing, that can, one, make Twitter profitable, because Twitter is not profitable. And two, make it a better experience for users. Help me curate my timeline a little better. Because a lot of the junk I see, I don't want to see. It's hard to have a conversation with anybody on there because you get inundated with trolls. If I make a comment like, hey, I don't want my tax money going to Ukraine and Nazis, I get inundated with people with 500 Ukraine flags telling me I need to go suck Putin off. And it's like, geez, people. Or telling me I need to go lick Trump's asshole or something. It's like, oh my God, guys, I just don't want my tax money going over there when I know I've got homeless people in my state capital sleeping on the concrete? You know, I mean, that's the whole point. Did any of us vote on that war? And now we're talking about nuclear war? You know, I think in my next video, I want to talk about how the sanction have just boomeranged on everybody in the West, specifically the oil sanctions. You know, it's really, really simple. Basically, we cut off Russian oil. So the Russians start selling it to China and India, who sell it to the Saudis, who jack up the price and sell it back to us. So we're still buying Russian oil. Everybody is. We're just paying more for it. They're slapping different labels on it. And we're just paying more for everything because we've slowed down the supply chain. But boy, those sanctions. And the ruble is stronger than it has been in the past decade. So how are those sanctions going exactly? It's mind-boggling. It really, really mind-boggling. Our strategic petroleum reserve is its lowest level in almost 50 years. We're going to release more of it. Saudi just decided to cut production by 2 million barrels a day, and they're just laughing at us. They know they've got us by the short and curlies. So we're not in a great position, folks, but that's the way it goes sometimes. We need some policy changes, and again, I think one of the keys to all this is free speech. And just being able to have these conversations without fear of being banned, without being brigaded by bots and trolls, and hearing more voices. You know, there's been thousands, tens of thousands of people banned off Twitter that can't even throw their 2 cents in. Really smart people, doctors even. You know, we were talking about the jab. There's legit doctors that's been doctors for decades that had some concerns and some thoughts, and they posted them on there. Boom, banned, misinformation, didn't go with the narrative. Do you think that was Twitter making that decision? Or do you think that was a government agency saying, hey, we got to stick with this narrative because people's lives are at stake? And, you know, same way the FBI was like, hey, this could be Russian disinformation. Now, just extrapolate that out over every touchy subject for the last, 5-10 years. How many times has that happened? How many more times will that happen unless something changes? That's what you have to consider. Anyway, thanks for listening, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. I will talk to you soon. Let me know what you want to hear next, and I'll make it happen. Thanks.